Welcome to the 2019 Football Officials Video Training Series. We're studying the National Federation of High School Rules and five-man mechanics. Technical assistance provided by Dax Hill and Greg Dallum. Our video producer is Matt Bivens. Executive producer is Walt Coleman. I'm your host, Todd Allen. This video is a copyright production of the Arkansas Association of High School Officials. Visit our website at aahso.com. The Arkansas Association of High School Officials. We're helping good officials get better. We've all heard the phrase, use it or lose it. Nothing could be more true when you're talking about the rules, and nothing can help you use it and grow as a football official more than the Reading Studying Guide. Well, maybe these videos, but the Reading Study Guide's a close second. I use it frequently throughout the season and in the off-season to refresh and update my rules knowledge, keep my head in the game, keep me thinking about the rules, because you don't want to start over every year. Pick up your copy of the Reading Study Guide, because when you're through learning, you're through. Let's start week 2 off a little bit different. Got an email this week from Todd in Utah asking about our coverage on free kicks. We put out a video a couple of years ago and talked about how we cover and count players on the kicking team and decide who's watching who, basically. And you've heard me say even this last week, 60 yards on the field and 22 guys spread out with 5 officials, really tough. But Todd's email reminded me that we're covering kickoffs differently. So let's talk about that. And look at this graphic up on the screen now. And we've gone from counting players and watching players down the field as your keys to now we're just working free kicks in zones. And you see here the referee has a big zone because basically we want him to work the goal line, sideline to sideline. Umpire and head linesman will have to help with the pylon, but remember, anything over the top of the pylon, if the choice is a penalty or a touchback, go with touchback. You're much better off. So don't be overly technical on those long kicks that either go into the end zone or out of bounds, very tight around the pylon. But the coverage area in this deep zone the R is going to handle, now you look at the umpire where he starts out at the 20-yard line and slides up the field. We talked about yesterday how important it is to keep your eyes up, but look at him, he's getting the area around, basically the 15-yard line up the field. Head linesman on the opposite side of the press box has that 15-yard belt there in his zone to start out. Back judge also opposite the press box, and you'll notice too that we do show his pattern of onto the field after the ball is kicked and all the players pass by. Same thing with the line judge, who is on the press box side of the field at the 40-yard line with the kicker's restraining line. I also mentioned about stepping back off the field to give yourself a vertical and horizontal line in your picture frame, helps your brain process more. But let me go to this next graphic and basically just calling this a progression. First thing that I want to point out, these players that are on the kicking team that are now red dots, and the important thing to pick up on these players that are now presented by these red dots is the fact that there's no one near them. So we do not want to be looking at them. They are not going to do anything. So you've got to train your brain to get away from people who aren't threatened and go into the areas where you do, in fact, see a threat. I want to start out with the referee looking through the ball carrier at the first block in the transitional zone around the head linesman. So the first threat in, the referee's picking up, and we would also, if you look at the yellow arrow, that arrow represents the head linesman. Also, he is picking up that threat, and the second threat in his zone, nearest player to him, is a red dot. Don't watch that player. He's not threatened. Now let's go over to the umpire's side of the ball. He also has the first player that comes through and threatens on his sideline. Those arrows, I guess, are purple in color, but also he's picking up the second block, and he would be picking up that third and fourth block too, closest to him too, that we also show the line judge looking at. These players that are in transition areas that are close to zones that you're working, you got to learn to assess those threats real quickly and either get on or stay off of those players. If a player's in your zone and is threatened, tied up, looks like there could be a potential for a foul or he's fully engaged, you need to stay with him and transition him into another zone. Really important that we focus on players who have the potential to foul or to be fouled. Back judge, look at his key now. He's all the way across the middle of the field, but that player's in a transition zone, but we'd also expect for him to pick up that only block in his zone, which is showing at about the 35-yard line. Those other two players in his zone, members of the kicking team who are hanging back, don't want to be officiating those players. Not likely to happen. Probably a poor job of presenting the graph with those two players and how they are represented represented in this play. But let's go and look at this play here on the wide shot and just take a look in kind of in your mind picture what position that you're working and how you would be affected by working in these zones rather than trying to pick up players. It's really easy for the umpire, the head linesman, and the referee, because basically what you're doing is just picking up the first thread as it comes down the field. Tough plays, these kicking plays with 5 guys, but do the best. Talk about these zone coverages and how you transition, and then take a look at some game film with your crew working and see, watch what these players do and watch what happens to them. It'll help you do a better job on officiating the very tough plays that are free kicks. Okay, that ran a little longer than I expected, so let's run a couple of plays real quick here. Defensive pass interference. The categories: early contact, not playing the ball, pistol formation, quarterback, wide receiver on a go route, safety over the top, playing cover 2, and just wipes him out. Got an end zone shot here. Kind of tight. Got to look around the goal post here, but see the defender just wipes out the wide receiver from late. Makes for an easy interception and reverse field down, but we do pick up this as a early contact, not playing the ball. Correct call for defensive pass interference. Keep your eye on this receiver right here. Little move to the inside and then out, running toward the sideline. The pass goes up, and again the safety wipes him out before the ball arrives. Another play, early contact, not playing the ball. Wish they were all this easy. 2 flags on this. Correct call for defensive pass interference. Let's switch gears here and go to blocks in the back. And when I get anyone on video and I make them flash like this wide receiver right here, and I guess I was just bored playing with the flasher. But anyway, keep your eye on this player. Quarterback in a pistol formation just hits the wide receiver with a little, I don't even know what kind of pass that is. Just dinks the ball over to him as he cuts across the middle of the field. But watch again this player right here. Here's the action that's about to happen. And boom. Classic block in the back. Line judge, back judge had a good look at this, or you should have if you're focused in the right place, because that's right at the point of attack and that's the lead block ahead of it. If you're covering the ball up the field, that's the block you want to be focused in on. Back judge would have been your key when the ball came out and the runner starts. Certainly line judge could have looked at it. The head linesman, we would rather see you work in the back side of this play. So not upset that you did not see this call, but we do miss this block in the back. And it brings us to our very next segment. When we talk about blocks in the backs, it's important that you recognize some of the terminology that we're going to use on these training videos, and we've covered this before, but it's worth reviewing because it's pretty important stuff. Block in the back always comes from a player who's in what we call chase mode. What is chase mode? It's simply a player approaching an opponent from the rear. And we talk about 9 and 6. And it's important that you recognize when we talk about 9 and 6, we're talking about the clock. And in this example on the screen here, you see a clock. Now, imagine a football player standing in the center where this dot is between the 9 and the 3 and the 12 and the 6. The player is facing this direction, or the 12. And so to the side of the player is the 9 on the left, and to the side of the player is the 3 on the right. Players that approach and block their opponent from 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, or 3, even if there's contact in the rear, but because they approach from the front or the side, we do not want these called blocks in the back. These are side blocks or front blocks, even though, again, some of the contact may occur in the rear. Even all of the contact could occur in the rear. How could that happen? Well, if a defender turns on a block, so the opponent approaches him from the 9 position, the defender turns to the 3 position on this clock and then gets struck in the back completely, that is not a block in the back. Although all of the contact occurred in the back because the player did not approach from chase mode. That's what we talk about. It's really important to understand that you see the 2 steps before the impact. If you come to a block in the back late, or a potential block in the back late, but you don't see those first 2 steps, and the defender is to turn on the block because he sees it coming, he gets hit squarely in the back, and you throw a flag for an illegal block in the back, and you're wrong. Even though all of the contact, again, occurs in the back. It's simply because the player did not approach from chase mode. Now, if the opponent approaches from anything below the 9 or the 3, so that would include 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, any approach from that and any contact in the back, we do want that called a block in the back because the opponent is approaching from chase mode. And that's the important verbiage that you need to understand. Let's go back and look at this play again real quick, and I'm going to stop it in a couple of places because do you recognize this opponent? Now let's look at this spot. Look, they're side by side. So if the block occurs now, or if the opponent approaches and makes the block now, this would not be a block in the back. But now if we advance the frame, we go slow and we come to right here. Now there's been no contact, but now the defender is repositioned and the offensive player or his opponent is now squarely in chase mode. He's in the 6th position. But then we advance it forward and we have this contact right at the point of attack. So if you don't see the first 2 steps, you do not want to call a block in the back. But if you're watching your keys, mechanically your crew is strong, you recognize this player does approach from chase mode and makes contact in the back. Meets all the criteria, and that is why we said this was a miss for an illegal block in the back. Understanding chase mode, understanding the importance of seeing the 2 steps, at least, you can see more. That's why when you recognize a player in chase mode, don't go away from him. No matter what else is happening, stay on that player because treat him like he's got a brick in his hand. Because if he's in chase mode and he makes contact in the rear and you throw your flag, you're going to get a correct call for an illegal block in the back. So we'll wrap up this week with this video, and I've received a number of phone calls and emails about this one because this is an interesting play. Pistol quarterback and a pass out here in the flat to the slot receiver who catches it and turns upfield and faces this one defender. And I'm going to stop it here a couple of frames because I want you to notice the body position of both the player, the defender and the offensive player. So I want you to look right here. And as I stop this frame and the defender that he's head up with and the defender that's in pursuit here right at the 45-yard line, this defender right here, you can still see the offensive player's position. His posture is straight up. He's a vertical player running down the field. Now he gets hidden behind the defender on this frame, but look at the defender that's head up with him, this player here. Keep your eye on him, and then the offensive player is going to pop out from behind this defender, and this is where I want you to focus right here. Now, look at the body position of the offensive player. His head is completely parallel to the ground. He is facing his opponent with the crown of the helmet, and the defender is now crouching down and facing his opponent, also leaning in, head down, crown of the helmet, and we get this frame right here. This is a direct, or it appears to be a direct helmet-to-helmet, crown of the head by both players as the would-be tackler falls to the ground. The offensive player runs up and continues out of bounds. So we do get a flag here late by the head linesman. You can see he pitches it forward. Head linesman, so mechanically, your position on this play is really good. I like the way you get up the field a little bit and then you stop. And so just keep your eye. This is the head linesman right here. Keep your eye on this official. You get stopped as the ball gets in the air. And I like your mechanics. You hold the line right here. You retreat into the backfield to let the play go by you. Look at his vision, though. He's looking right at these players as this impact occurs. Then he begins to move up the field officiating. And I think what's happening here is he's just processing the play. But then he goes and throws the flag forward. You see it land just beyond the line to gain. The lesson for this here is mechanically very, very well officiated, but what you'd just want to do is just drop your flag at the point of the foul here, because this is an important spot because it ends up behind the basic spot. We all know from the 3-and-1 principle, which we're going to dive into deeper later this year, but that becomes an enforcement spot if you do call a foul on the offense, and that's what's crazy about this play. What we get on the field is a foul for targeting by the offensive player, who clearly lowers his head and uses the crown of the helmet to strike his opponent, and that opponent's the contact absolutely is high, forcible contact. So what we do is we disqualify this offensive player, and not to get too involved in the politics of the appellate process, but I think when we go back and look at video, and whoever it is that does that, and evaluates, unfortunately the video is not always great, but I think anytime we have a chance to go back and look, I really, really like that. So we do go back in our appellate process and look at this play, and the AAA ends up disqualifying the defender also. But he too lowers his head and uses the crown of the helmet to strike an opponent. So the elements of the foul are there. But I get why we have this initially on the offensive player, but very unusual to see a targeting foul against an offensive player, but the elements of the foul are there, and the rule doesn't differentiate between offense and defense. So kudos to the crew. Heads up. Great mechanically. Just that one little thing about the flag placement, but not a big deal. Don't have the next play in this video to see where we ended up enforcing this foul from, but it is good to get the flag on the spot of the foul in this case, because it was behind the basic spot, so it would be our enforcement spot for this particular foul. Being set up mechanically, working these plays, being patient, move with a purpose is what we talk about. Well officiated, headlinesman. Good job on this play for targeting, and we do have a disqualification. That's it for week 2, guys. Thanks for checking out the video. Lots of good officiating we're seeing from around the state, and some opportunities to get better, and that's what it's about here, taking a look at these plays. Remember, and I should have said this as we started the year, it's worth repeating every year. Nothing on these videos is ever meant to embarrass or humiliate anyone, but when we look at each other's mistakes and we learn from each other's mistakes, then we can reduce the repetitive mistakes. And as long as you're getting better every week, we're moving in the right direction. I firmly believe that. Email address todd@aahso. Comments or thought-provoking ideas, anything you'd like to share with me, I'd love to hear from you. Don't always get a chance to answer all of my emails, but I certainly try. Thanks for sending those. Have a great pregame this week. Go out and do what you do that makes high school football such an incredible sport. For the Arkansas Association of High School Officials, this is Todd Allen saying I hope to see you on the field real soon.